This is Eugene Chan, and welcome to Straight Talk. Our guest tonight is Ms. Pullman Low. She is Vice Chairman and Managing Director of the Regal Hotels Group, as well as Director of several companies, including Century City International Holdings, a group of 5 listed companies in Hong Kong. She comes to us with over 20 years of experience in hospitality management, business, and property development in Hong Kong and on the mainland. She has been a member of the Hong Kong Tourism Board and is currently a member of the election committee in the hotel subsector. So we have invited Ms. Low tonight to tell us how the tourism sector is going to survive our current border restrictions. Welcome, Pullman.
Good evening, Eugene.
Pullman, as you know, the title of the show is How Can Our Tourism Sector Survive Without the Hotel Quarantine Being Lifted? As we all know, many places of the world has already been opened up, and you have seen Europe and US have seen tourist numbers going up. And Hong Kong remain one of the few places that still require hotel quarantine on entry. Not to mention, if there are airlines coming in with more COVID passengers, they will be banned.
Right.
So how much longer can we survive under such a situation? Because some say this is really killing our tourism.
Well, unfortunately, you're right. It is indeed killing the tourism industry. So, as you all know, we have been affected by the 2018 social unrest. So the past few years has truly been disastrous for Hong Kong. Last year, we received roughly 90,000 visitors, so that is 97% down.
Right.
And just to give you some comparison, back in 2018, we received 65 million visitors.
Million?
Yeah, 65 million. And in the past 2 months, guess how many? We only had 9,000 some visitors.
Wow.
So truly, it's been detrimental for the tourism industry, and we have all been, hanging tight.
Yes.
And hopefully, we'll see the light at the end of the tunnel soon.
Right, Pullman, as you know, business travelers do have very tight schedules, and having to spend 7 days in the hotel quarantine isn't going to be very attractive, not to mention the potential of flight cancellations as well. So the Hong Kong General Chamber of Commerce, George Leung, has said we could lose our rival Singapore. And do you agree?
I must say that Hong Kong is indeed being threatened, our competitiveness as a whole. We have lost quite a bit of talent. I think many expatriates in particular are not very happy with the situation. And also, as you say, business travelers, unless they have, some inevitable activities, they will not be coming to Hong Kong if they have to go through quarantine. However, I must say that this is very encouraging that we already have lifted the ban on overseas visitors. So starting May 1st, non-Hong Kong residents are at least allowed to come to Hong Kong with a 7-day quarantine. So it's a good start. So we are encouraged.
Right. Pullman, as you know, tourism is one of our major pillars of Hong Kong economy. Back in 2018, it accounted like 4.5% of our GDP, employed like 257,000 people. And as you said, with the low numbers of visitors, our economy has contracted by 4% by the first quarter. So if we don't open our borders further or with less restrictions, how much more do you think is going to affect our economy from your point of view?
Well, definitely, we are seeing signs of economic slowdown. Unemployment is skyrocketing. So everyone is suffering. For the hotel industry, we have had to resort to other means. A lot of hotels are promoting staycation and long stay businesses. Of course, our group has been working very closely with the government as we are steadfastly supportive of the government's battle against COVID. So we were actually the first hotel to serve as a holding facility for the travelers to wait for their COVID results. And since then, 6 of our hotels have been serving as designated quarantine hotels and community isolation facilities. However, for the whole retail and F&B industry, we've all been badly hit. A lot of restaurants have had to rely on takeaway. So we are all at least encouraged to see that slowly, hopefully we will see a comeback of routine activities.
Right, Pullman, as a member of the election committee, as you know, we have a new chief executive-elect, Mr. John Lee. What type of suggestions will your sector be giving to Mr. Lee, especially, as you just said, the border closing and also the travel restrictions? I mean, what would you have suggested, and what is his answer?
We have always said that, it's been already a few years. We started with 2019, COVID-19, so we're already in the third year. So I think the priority really has to be on resuming business and daily activities. Otherwise, we will lose to other cities and countries around the world that are relaxing on restrictions. Having said that, Hong Kong is in a very unique position. I don't think we should be reactive or we should be copying other cities. Rather, we should be proactively taking the role of, being a leader, perhaps, in trying out some new solutions. In fact, we could even be a pilot test bed for China, because again, we have always played the role of being a strategic window to the world. So I think it's important that we don't just reactively resort to copying other models. Rather, we could perhaps leverage on technology. For example, the priority can be placed on allowing those with business needs or reuniting with families, and obviously those that have been vaccinated with the booster. So, and also we could also perhaps ask the vendors who are for the rapid antigen tests, who are all adequately funded, to come up with more creative solutions. I think there are ways to manage the virus other than just relying on long quarantines. Right. For example, travelers could come to Hong Kong and be required to abide by the Home Safe app and perhaps upload their RIT results on a daily basis so we could track them. Right. So hopefully, again, the idea is to really encourage travel again.
Okay. Pullman, as you know, Hong Kong is in a very unique position. We're at the doorstep to the mainland, and we are adopting a dynamic zero COVID policy compared to the rest of the world, which is living with COVID. So if you have a choice to choose between opening the borders to mainland visitors or compared to overseas visitors, what would be your choice?
So again, the question is whether it should be mutually exclusive. Again, I think Hong Kong is a strategic window. So given the differences in culture, I don't think Hong Kong is ready to implement the type of lockdown that Chinese cities are, implementing to control COVID to a zero COVID state. So since we can never do that, I do believe that perhaps we can be China's window to the world and be more adaptive and more agile in letting visitors come to Hong Kong. Having said that, since 70% of our travelers before COVID came from mainland China, they are definitely key to economic recovery. So we do have to work very, very hard on reopening the border with China.
Right. So let's move on to the hotel industry where you're at. As you mentioned earlier in the show, we've been through the riots in 18 and 19.
Yes.
Then we have like 2 years of COVID.
Right.
Come back to SARS, which was like a few months. This is really like 2 years.
Yes.
How much longer can the business survive? I mean, it must be tough on you. Because as you said, the travelers down by 97 point something percent.
Right.
So we're down with 9,000 travelers out of 300 hotels in Hong Kong. I mean, how can you spread? I mean, how bad are your books? Sorry to ask.
So unfortunately, it's very hard to predict when exactly COVID will come to an end. Hopefully, we'll together work collectively on boosting the vaccination rate further. But again, I think the key is to remain agile and adaptive. Right. And hopefully, we can find the best balance going forward.
Right. Pullman, we had Mr. Simon Wong, the chairman of Chamber of Food and Culture Industry of Hong Kong, and he told us that 2,500 restaurants closed, like about 15% of the 17,000 restaurants are closed in Hong Kong. How bad is it with the hotels? I mean, very fortunately, we haven't seen any hotel closure. How bad is it?
Well, to be honest, I think in Hong Kong, most of the hotel developers and operators do not just have hotels as their core business. And having said that, I think, most hotel occupancy rates have been badly hit. And even when we do manage to attract room guests for long stay or staycation, the profit margin is quite different from what it was before.
I'm sure.
And also F&B with dinners suspended till last month, and also MICE banquet wedding business is all completely wiped out. It is a very difficult period for all of us.
Right. Last question before the break. Managing all this listed company with hotels, it must have been very tough. Have you lost many staff over the last 2 years? Can you retain them with such limited businesses, as you just mentioned?
Well, our staff have been very supportive of the group, and especially since 6 of our hotels have been participating in the government's designated hotels community isolation scheme, we do actually have to rely on the hard work and commitment of our staff. So, I'm
in short, it hasn't been easy.
It hasn't been easy, but I believe that Hong Kong is very resilient. We are, as a group, we have also gone through SARS, and actually what doesn't kill you makes you stronger. So even back in 2003, after SARS, we have actually risen stronger than before, because we were able to identify areas where we could perhaps improve our cost control and also enhance multitasking of our staff. So I'm very hopeful that after COVID, we will actually be stronger than before.
All right, we'll have a break and see you soon. Welcome back. Thank you for staying with us. We have been talking with Ms. Pullman Low about how the tourism sector has been surviving under the current restrictions. So Pullman, in the first part, we had talked about the difficulties of the hotel industry and what you have been doing. And I'm sure the viewers will want to ask you, your hotel was designed to be people for leisure, for dinners, for businesses, meetings, and to become a quarantine facility. Has it been easy? Is it easy to transform from a hotel now to fit all the criteria of being a facility like for holding facility, or even quarantine hotel?
Especially at the beginning, it was not easy at all. We were actually the very first hotel to become a holding facility back in March 2020. So that was actually pretty much at the beginning of the pandemic. So very naturally, our staff were quite worried. So we actually did have to spend a bit of time to make sure that everyone was actually ready to take on the challenge. But I must say, I feel that each and every one of our colleagues, they're heroes. They have been so selflessly devoted to fighting the cause. At that point, we were not sure what were the consequences, but they still stood up for the challenge. So I really applaud them. We did try to provide all the necessary support in terms of on-the-job training, additional hygiene measures, and also provided more psychological, emotional counseling, and also and some additional allowances to support our staff and colleagues along this fight.
Pullman, was there any concern from the business point of view that being a hotel of such nature will affect the normal core businesses?
Indeed. In fact, there were a lot of considerations, which is why I'm sure we were indeed the first hotel, and back then there were a lot of worries and anxieties that we had to deal with. But we felt that we had to play this role. We are not just a business entity. Rather, we have to perform our civic duty to support the government and to be with the people of Hong Kong during this fight.
Right. Pullman, we have also looked at some figures of hotel occupancy rate. Of course, it was quite low in the beginning, but after doing all that, and even with other hotels that may not be a facility for quarantine, you see the hotel occupancy rate going up. And could be partly due to the long stay packages or even like staycation. Do you see staycation becoming a norm of Hong Kong's people's life, even after the pandemic?
I think it would probably continue to be a part of, our perhaps weekend programs. But to be honest, it's not easy to provide staycation packages because there's a lot of content that we have to prepare. So when you do look at the bottom line, it is not as satisfactory as when you serve business travelers who come here for a few days. Having said that, I do think hospitality is always about taking customer experiences to the next level. So I think this challenge that we've all gone through does propel us to be better, to serve our customers better, and not just provide a room. Rather, it's the holistic experience before, during, and after the stay.
Right, Pullman, I just read in the South China Morning Post there was a recent hotel transaction in Hong Kong by a local buyer, and that means a lot of confidence in the industry. However, if you look at from the Hong Kong Monetary Authority, they're saying that this pandemic is going to have a deep and long-lasting impact, what we call a scarring effect, on the global tourism and business travel. So what are your outlook for traveling and especially tourism in Hong Kong, which is such an important pillar of Hong Kong's economy?
I still remain very bullish. I myself was in Singapore about 2 weeks ago, so I can see a huge rebound in business travel and also tourism. So I think once we get past the COVID challenge, there will be tremendous interest in coming back to Hong Kong, because after all, we are Asia's world city. We are the regional business hub with a lot of strengths to leverage on, including our financial system. We are the trading hub. We have a lot to offer, so I'm pretty optimistic.
Well, Pullman, you being an outstanding student when you were young, then you become the 10th outstanding young person of Hong Kong, then 10th outstanding young person of the world. I mean, we are one of maybe the only person who has achieved such recognitions. So I think you're the most qualified person to talk about young people. We often talk about the Greater Bay Area, and especially in tourism. What opportunities are there for young people with this big market right next to Hong Kong?
Well, first of all, I think the future belongs to those with a global vision, with a broad perspective. So I think, the key to being successful in the future is to be able to understand and embrace various cultural differences. So I think it's important that we promote more exchange programs so that our youths can also understand the Greater China market. And in terms of the hospitality industry, I think we definitely are strategically positioned to be a regional training hub for the next generation of hospitality professionals. As I'm sure a lot of you would agree, hardware in China is never a problem. We can always get the best designers to build the best facilities. And yet I think Hong Kong still has a competitive edge in providing a higher, global level kind of service, because after all, we are the melting pot, the cultural melting pot. So again, I hope that we can serve as that strategic window to propel China's development.
Right, so you just mentioned that Hong Kong tourism will stand a very good chance for the future upcoming when the pandemic ends. So when you're talking about human resources, which is always Hong Kong's major asset,
right,
we see quite a few expatriates have left in Hong Kong, as stated in the news, and some young people, or there may be some more immigration in the recent months. How has that been affecting your hotel industry's manpower? Has it drained away a lot of your talents, or your talents are actually still in Hong Kong?
Well, to be honest, I think it has affected both talent recruitment as well as retention. In terms of recruitment, oftentimes, when we do hire, senior management levels, then it's more helpful to actually invite them over and have a face-to-face chat. So it's more difficult when there's the quarantine. And in terms of retention, there have been a number of, especially middle management colleagues who have chosen to left Hong Kong. So I do think, we definitely do need to work on strengthening, our competitiveness as an employer.
Right, Pullman, you said you were in Singapore, and I'm sure you can feel the vibrancy when everything's open up. So how can Hong Kong be rebranded?
Well, I think we have to reestablish our leadership as Asia's world city. We are, after all, the regional business hub, so we have to leverage on, our financial strengths. The Sky City developments, we do have one of the best airports in the world. And also we have to leverage on, the GBA, all the business opportunities that we can create a lot of synergy with. And, I think Hong Kong definitely needs to promote innovation, especially in the area of fintech. We can be a strategic bridge connecting Chinese companies to the rest of the world. And when there are, especially new startups, technology companies wanting to penetrate Asia, Hong Kong is still the preferred window to China. And also in terms of ESG and impact investing, I think Hong Kong can also play a very strategic role in promoting green finance, for example.
In the last section of the show, last year, very quick question. You mentioned technology, fintech, etc., etc. I know that your group has started something on the metaverse. Can you just tell the viewers? I mean, a lot of people may not be very familiar with it. What are you trying to do, and how can you link a traditional industry with the technology?
So the metaverse, in a nutshell, is basically the next generation of virtual reality that is based on, the latest blockchain technologies and immersive media. I personally feel that, in 10 years' time, everyone will be in metaverse. It will no longer be an option because it will simply disrupt each and every facet of life. The reason why we're entering metaverse with MetaGreen is because sustainability and innovation has always been at the heart of our group's DNA and passionately infused in a lot of our corporate initiatives. So MetaGreen is actually a collaborative ecosystem that we're building with some like-minded partners who share our vision of building a greener future. So we are actually fostering a sustainable community and promoting circular economy by empowering consumers to adopt more sustainable choices, both in metaverse as well as in the real world.
Does it create much commercial value?
Oh yes, it needs to be sustainable. So I believe that it is a triple bottom line investment in that it will help the people of Hong Kong by promoting financial inclusion, by promoting eco-friendly choices. It will also definitely help accelerate the transition to a net zero future. And also it does hopefully generate profit for our group by allowing us to be positioned as a purpose-driven brand and to connect to the younger generation.
But that's all the time we have. We'd love to have you longer. Many thanks to you for sharing your hotel industry's challenges and contingencies during the last 2 years with the pandemic. Opening of the border with the mainland would be the first step of recovery. Stay healthy and good night.